Okay, and welcome everyone. Just gonna get my earphones. That's a little better. One moment, please. So, see. Wait, I'm gonna flip the camera so you can see my. And welcome everyone. On yes, a beautiful day, a very beautiful day, and I'm about 40 minutes, about 40 minutes north of Amsterdam right now in the beautiful city and in the beautiful harbor, to be honest, of Hoorn. Well, we just can see just behind us, look, there's a big tall ship just coming in that has been sailing over the big lake over here in this part of the Netherlands. And yes, I want to welcome everyone for a new tour on for me a new location. I've been doing a lot of tours in the last, what is it, more than over 2 years now, but I've never been in Hoorn yet, and that's a shame. That's really a shame because it is one of these beautiful places, not so far away from Amsterdam. Just to give you an idea, it's about 30 minutes by train from Amsterdam. By car, I think it's a little longer, but also 30, 40 minutes, something like that. So, um, and yes, a warning about seeing my face because I didn't shave myself. So I'm working on the mustache. No, no, no. I just was lazy the last days. And I was also thinking maybe I can have a mustache that's better with my new penny farting bike. That some of you have seen the videos that I'm doing my best to get used to that bicycle, but that will be. So I thought like, okay, if I'm gonna drive on that bicycle, then I need a little more a mustache with some other things. So, but yes, I wanna welcome all of you in the city of Hoorn, 30 minutes north of Amsterdam, a beautiful harbor city. In the coming 45 minutes, I will take you through the city for about 45 minutes. You never know exactly how long it will take, and so I'm really excited to take you around even more with this beautiful weather because this morning it was grayish everywhere, and I was really thinking like, oh no, oh no, oh no, it will be maybe even raining. But during the day, it became more and more better and better. So, and I really need my sunglasses today because it is a beautiful summer day, a beautiful end of summer day. Because of course it's already September. Although to be honest, the summer this year in the Netherlands was quite wet, so we are happy to at least have some of the days like the one over here. And of course, I want to welcome everyone today who is joining. Feel free to ask questions about what we're seeing. And I'm already going a little too fast because I wanted to tell you already a first story about where we are right now. Because we are just outside of the city center, the old 15th, 16th city center of the city of Hoorn. And this is a piece of reclaimed land in the former ocean that we were calling the Southern Sea. And it is now behind me. It looks like very calm. Nowadays, it's a big lake, the biggest lake in the Netherlands, but it was for a very long time a rough sea. And the city of Hoorn was a trading city. And in the 17th century, it was going so well that they needed more place for all the goods that were brought inside. So what they did is they reclaimed a piece of land just outside of the main harbor, and that is the area where I'm standing on right now. The only thing is, they decided to make this new land just at a moment that it was going a little less well with the city of Hoorn. So, in the 150 years before, it was the trade was growing and growing and growing, but just at the moment that they opened this new island, the trade was going down. So in the end, it took about 100, 150 years before this piece was used, and they were like, okay, what are we gonna use this area for? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the screen, and you can see it. You can see it better because the buildings over here, some of them are still warehouses. But it was cheap land. But because it was cheap land, because nobody needed it at first, they were also, and it was a little outside of the city center, they also built this beautiful building over here. And you can see on the style it's a little more 19th century, so a little later, not 17th century, but 19th century. And I think if you look at the windows, you can see where this building was used for. It was very handy to have a place for all your criminals. So this was the prison of Hoorn. Nowadays, by the way, a cinema museum, a big cinema museum and a hotel and everything. And by the way, this is also interesting. This is also a cinema museum, and part of the prison is now a hotel. So you can stay in a prison hotel here in the city of Hoorn. So maybe next time, if I'm coming over here, I have to sleep a night in a prison cell. So just to know how that feels. So, and I'm walking towards the old city center, and the area where the big ships are coming inside. And you can see already over here on the side there are a lot of old sailing ships. A lot of old sailing ships, most of them that are laying over here in front of me are from the 19th century. And these 19th century ships are used a lot for people that want to sail over the former Southern Sea, or what is now called the IJsselmeer, the IJssel Lake, a big lake in the Netherlands. And it's the best place if you want to have a sailing trip. And as you can see, there are a lot of them laying over here. Okay, I will think about that prison, by the way. That is for that's for another moment. And of course, there are also everywhere flowers in this beautiful city. So I'm still in the area of the harbor, so the newer harbor over here. Newer harbor means 17th and 18th century. And we will soon arrive in the older part of the harbor. And there's an interesting combination over here, as you can see, of these older ships, mainly 19th, sometimes start of the 20th century. And how am I seeing that, by the way? Is because these ships, like the one over here, is is a sorry, is a ship that's made from steel. So you can see the boat is made of steel, and the time of steel that was of course a little later because originally the ships over here were made all from wood and not from steel yet. So it's a little later. This one is from 1895, by the way. And yeah, so originally these were ships to transport, or barges to transport all kind of stuff, but nowadays they're in use for mainly tourists to go and sail over the beautiful lake over here. And then here at the right side, and yes, I will think about a sailing trip. The only thing is always the on the water. If you're going a little further, then you have less connection. So, but it is a good idea. But you can see over here that there is a dike. This dike is protecting the city of Hoorn against the ocean, because originally this was the ocean, so they needed bigger dikes because it could be, of course, with high tides and with storms that the water could come over. So you can see that over here, and um, the dike there are already the first houses. The houses over here are still built a little outside of the old city center, and we can also see that based on the name, and not the name of the house, but the name of the street. The street over here, it's called, you can see it over here on the side, it's called Hoofd. And Hoofd is the Dutch word for head. So this was the head of the city. So the head of the city just sticking out a little of the other part of the other part of town. So, but it's a beautiful head, I think. And then here at the right side, we have one of the main buildings of the city of Hoorn. It's a beautiful tower. It's a beautiful tower, and it's interesting enough, a beautiful tower with two different parts. So the under part, you can see it's a lighter color of the stone. This was built in the 17th century. Sorry, the end of the 16th century already. 16th century, and this was just to protect the city center, to protect the harbor. So this was part of the whole defense lines, the defense walls that were placed around the city of Hoorn. So you can maybe imagine that a trading post, a trading city like the one over here. Yeah, there were a lot of other people, like for example the Vikings, that was a little time before already, that wanted to come over here, and they were coming over the water. What you can see over there at the other side, that is where the sea is, that is where the ships are coming from. Um, and yeah, it was protecting it. And the interesting thing of this building, it was in use as a defense tower for about 100 years. And the walls here, just to give you an idea, are about 1.5 meters thick. So that means about 5 feet thick in total. And you can also see there's several parts where you see the holes. On several parts are holes, and these holes are to use for the cannons that they were using. So it was in use for about 100 years. Then they made some other fortifications that were suited better. And then in the 17th century, some people were saying like, let's make this our head office. And to make it our head office, maybe we can build a little tower on top. And you see the tower on top, it feels a little like it's a church tower. And yeah, it's a church tower, but not completely, because of course the building itself is not a church at all. And on top of the church tower, and I don't know if you can see it, otherwise I can zoom in a little. There's not a rooster, but there's a little ship. There's a little ship just to show that this building became part of the head office of some of the trade companies here in Hoorn. And this part of the tower, by the way, was inspired by the Amsterdam Southern Church from about the same time. So they were looking at that church and were heavily inspired and made the same type of tower just on top of this building. So interesting how cities were inspiring each other. And why were Amsterdam and the city of Hoorn inspiring each other? That is because they have a history that's partly combined. It's partly combined, and when I'm saying it's partly combined, then I'm talking about the golden age, the 17th century here in the Netherlands. In the 17th century, there was a famous company here in the Netherlands that we were calling in Dutch the VOC, the Verenigde Oost-Indische Company, or sometimes also called the Dutch East Indies Company. And the Dutch East Indies Company was not only in Amsterdam, no, it was from 6 different harbor cities in the Netherlands that were working together. And one of these 6 was the city of Hoorn. And by the way, over here, nice for um, it's always nice for guides like me that I don't have to remember exactly the years. You can see 1532 and 1651. And why there are 2 years? 1532 was the time that they were building this, and in 1651 they did the piece of the tower on top. So it's showing the 2 parts of this building, different the two different styles. And Susan, you're saying like the facade is so different from the rest of the building. That is completely true, because this facade is from the 17th century, and in the 17th century it was not used to protect anything anymore. It was just in use as the head office of one of the trading companies. So they wanted to show how rich they were, and that's what you can see over here. And there's also, by the way, a beautiful statue, but there's another one at the other side there, and there I can show you a little better uh, what that means. So, and Robin, exactly, I will talk about that. And over here we have one of the newer piers. If you're coming here with one of these sailing ships, then there's a big chance that you will arrive over here on the side. And look how beautiful this is. By the way, also look at the reflection on the water. The reflection on the water of these sailing ships is amazing. And again, most of them are 19th century. So 19th, sometimes start of the 20th century. So between 100 and 150 years old. So, um, and Elisabetta, yeah, at that time, the Netherlands and Belgium were together, although that changed several times, as what it is with history. But yeah, in the 17th century mainly, the city of Hoorn was one of the richest cities that you could find in the Netherlands, mainly because of the port, and also because of starting the Dutch East Indies Company. 6 cities were working together: Rotterdam, Delft, Amsterdam, Enkhuizen, Middelburg, and Hoorn. That were the six cities, and this was just one of them. And what we see over here is the same coat of arms of the city of Hoorn. And this is a beautiful one. I'm gonna zoom in a little so you can see it better, because you see that there is a unicorn, a red unicorn with a horn on, of course, a horn on its head. And then in the middle, it's a sitting unicorn. It's looking at us a little like, go away, go away. And in his hand, it's having a shield. And on the shield, there is a horn, like what we know from nowadays as a horn. So, and of course, a horn is also the name of the city over here. And yes, this place is gorgeous for sure. I'm just going to show you for a moment my face. One moment. So, just doing not the wrong. I was just doing the wrong button. I almost canceled the tour. That was not what I wanted to do. No, what there are a lot of stories about where the name horn is coming from. Because nowadays, if you think in English, you're thinking about horn, that thing that we all know. Of course, you also have the horn on top of a unicorn. So we have a unicorn over here. We have the horn, but both of them are not completely where the name horn is coming from. Because in Old Dutch, yeah, I'm not speaking Old Dutch anymore, but there horn means corner. It means corner, by the way, not only in Dutch, but also if you look at the Old Swedish, the Old Frisian, several other language, horn or hornik was meaning a corner. And why was it called corner? That is because this part of the world, this part of the harbor was a sort of in the corner of the Southern Sea. A corner, and it was also the best place to place it in a corner because there was less wind and less waves coming inside. So it was the perfect corner to start the harbor. And not only that, not only because of the location over here, also because of the area over here. So the city of Hoorn, first there was just a little river ending over here. And in this neighborhood, there's a lot of reclaimed land, by the way, and there are several cities and several villages. Now, what are these cities and villages traditionally making in this area? Or what do they have in this area is mainly cows, mainly cattle, mainly cows over here. And what are you going to do with cows? They're giving milk. So dairy was the thing that was over here, the main thing in this area. So milk, butter, of course, cheese. That were the things that were produced in this area, and the cities over here. They were also trading it. They were trading it, and they needed a place to trade. They needed a harbor to trade, and they were making this harbor already around 800. They think around 800 that it was almost nothing, and around 800 it was just made here in this corner, in this hornik, in this horn from the Southern Sea to start trading with Germany, with other countries nearby, with other places also in the Netherlands, and that is how it started. And then there were some. That's really interesting. There were some smart German investors, some German businessmen, and they were seeing that there was a lot of trade, and they were thinking, okay, there are coming a lot of sailors over here with all these ships. I'm going to change the screen again. Now they're coming a lot of sailors over here, and they have been sailing with all their stuff. They're coming over here to trade butter or cheese, etc. And if sailors are coming over here, what do they want? What do they want always when coming over here? They want to go to a bar. They want to have some beer. And these Germans, they were very big in the trade of beer at that moment. So they started three different cafes for all the sailors that were coming over here. And all these sailors that were coming over here were starting to drink. We're hanging out, we're staying here a little longer. And then bit by bit, it was starting to become a little village. So exactly, beer, parties, and of course trade. And the city was growing and growing and growing, and in the 17th century, it became one of the end of the 16th, start of the 17th century, one of these main towns in the Netherlands for trade. So important that the Dutch East Indies Company was partly started over here. And there are several great sailors, famous sailors that started from from the city of Hoorn, and one of them was a sailor named Bontekoe. And Bontekoe, he was one of these famous sailors. We can also say robbers nowadays, because that was basically what they were doing. They were going to uh, yeah, to Southeast Asia, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, all these kind of countries to trade stuff. And of course, for a very long time, the Dutch were very proud of this. We're very proud of this, that one day, about 100 years, we were the most strongest, the most powerful country that you could think of. And there have been several stories about this time. And one of these stories is about these three boys that we see over here. It's called the Scheepsjongens from Bontekoe, the shipper, the boys from Bontekoe. Bontekoe, the name of the sailor, the name of the trader, and these three were working as younger boys, the ship boys, going all the way to Indonesia. And in the 20th century, there was a Dutch writer, and he wrote a book about their stories. It's not completely what happened on Bontekoe, but a lot of Dutch kids have been reading this story of Bontekoe. And yeah, they were wearing clogs. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. So, okay, and then over here, when I'm walking inside. So we just. Oh, wait. I'm just gonna show you one other thing, just to show you the protection of the city against the Southern Sea. A very rough sea at that time. Nowadays, not anymore, because there's a big dike in the northern parts of the Netherlands that is protecting everything. But in the old times, we had to protect ourselves, or the people in Hoorn had to protect themselves against the water, and that's why they had this sort of entrance into the harbor. So here at the right side, we see the water, and then here, there's just a boat coming, so I can show you this a little better. You see these doors. These doors are protecting very high walls, and they're protecting the city against the rough sea. And the first harbors were here at the other side, inside, so you were protected against bad weather, against storms, against the sea, and everything. So this is showing a lot about, again, a typical Dutch town next to the sea that needed heavy protection. Nowadays it's a lake, and that is why all these ships can now also just lay outside of the old harbor. So, and also over here, I don't know if there's a little too much sun maybe now against us, but you see again the main tower. And what you can also see with the main tower is that the left side over there is white, and the right side is made from brownstone. And the thing is, this is very interesting. Why did they do this? In the time of building, brownstone was a lot cheaper than the white stone. So they didn't want to pay so much money for building this tower. But why were they using white stone at the left side? Is because if you are sailing somewhere there on the water, somewhere at that time at the ocean, then it's a lot easier. Then it's a lot easier to recognize a white tower. A white tower is a lot easier to recognize compared to a brown tower, and that for that reason they only made the part that is looking out over the sea from white stone, and the other part is made of brown stone. And by the way, also this side, and also the beautiful side that we were seeing before, doesn't have walls of 1.5 meters thick, not 5 feet thick. That's a lot less thick. So already at that time, they were thinking about, okay, how to make it affordable for the city in that time. So yeah, a lot of these things. Okay, I'm just gonna walk here all over the quay, one of the main quays. You see there are now cars parked. Of course, officially they were not over here. And then here on the side we have some of the most beautiful, I think, warehouses that you can see in the Netherlands. We still have some of these in Amsterdam. but not so many. There are more here in the city of Hoorn compared to Amsterdam. And if you have a house like this, now you can still see the doors, the typical dark green. That's a little the same as it is in Amsterdam. The red shutters, a beautiful gable stone there on the side, red shutters, and then going all the way to the top. And what you can also see in this house, and by the way, even more in the house on the side, is that there's over there a very big door slash nowadays a window, and this was the door to get the goods to the top of the building. So people were living, like the traders, they were living on the first levels with all the little windows, and then the upper floors were just used for all their goods, spices, porcelain, and almost everything that you can think of. But a lot of them were just spices like pepper, nutmeg, that were not originally from this part of Europe, so they were trading it over here. And then the people were living, and you can just see, just to give you a little idea, I don't know if you can see it over here. No, it's too hard to see. There's a beautiful chandelier inside. Sorry, but let's go on. And even you see some other. I've been I've been saying in several tours that the only place in the Netherlands where you have beams and hooks is Amsterdam. It's not completely true, as you can see on this building. They even have some hooks. So, while normally that was a typical Amsterdam way, but because Amsterdam and Hoorn were working together, so some of the people even had a warehouse in Amsterdam and another one in Hoorn. So they were using the same techniques. But most of the houses did not have these sorry, did not have these hooks and beams. And look how beautiful it is. So yeah, they were warehouses. They were warehouses, but at the same time, just to give you a little more an idea, they were warehouses, but also a sort of a shop. So, for example, over here we can see that this house is from 1620. So it is more than 400 years that it's standing here already. So these traders, they were living on the first two levels, but they were not only living, they also had their rooms over there where they were presenting their goods. So traders from other places, and for example from Brussels, yeah, this one is called Brussels, so most probably there was a connection with Brussels. They were they were inviting traders from other cities into their house that was at the same time their office, and the beautiful part was just downstairs. So with a beautiful table and a chandelier and everything, and then of course the goods were on top, so they could let people taste and see and sniff and everything what they were trading. So it was an office, warehouse, and house at the same time. Okay, and by the way, this one is also quite beautiful. Look at number 13 over here. Look at the door. I also love always how high the ceilings are. So, and then everywhere you have the signs. Like for example, over here we have a beautiful cow on the top. A beautiful cow on the top. Um, and not only a cow. If you're looking a little more to the top, there's a ship again, and a ship again because that was the main thing where people were making money over here. And even the name is related to that. It's called Veermanskade. And the Veerman in the Netherlands, the Veerman is the Dutch word for ferry. Because over here was the ferries with trade mainly that were going from Hoorn to Amsterdam. Because Amsterdam was already in the 17th century a lot bigger, a lot more rich even. Uh, but they were working closely together. Okay, I'm just going here over this drawbridge, and I want to show you a little more. I have to be a little careful because there are cars now also going. And exactly, rich traders, a lot. And by the way, over here at the right side, you see some of the fishery boats. Because of course, also there is a big lake over here. It used to be the sea, so um, main thing over here was trade, but there were fishermen over here bringing back the fish to this place because of course people also wanted to have more than only cheese. Okay, I cannot, this tour is not long enough to do the whole city, uh, but I can at least show you some beautiful parts. And look how calm it is over here. Well, the music, by the way, that you're hearing is some typical Dutch music. Typical Dutch music that are playing in this type of towns. Okay, I'm just, you see here, there are some side canals. So originally, the bigger boats were coming to the first harbor, and then smaller boats could go all the way over here on these little islands. And then, Tracy, I will come back to that later. Okay, I did not forget that for sure. I did not forget that. So, but for that, I wanna tell you something else later. Then over here, we have these boxes. We have these boxes, and I told you already that there was also a lot of fishermen living over here. Fish was coming, and this is what we are calling a viskaar. So imagine that the fisher boats were coming here inside, and some of the fish are the best if you eat them raw. If you eat them fresh, so not fish that are dead already. No, you want fresh fish that are still alive, and that's where they had these boxes over here. You can see if I'm looking at one of these boxes, there are little holes inside. So you can maybe imagine, sorry, it's a little sunny now. See, I think this is better. You can imagine that there are a lot of fish, like eel, for example, were inside over here, and they were bringing them then into the harbor, placing these boxes just under the water. So it was a sort of like a carriage for the fish that they just had. They were keeping it in the water to keep it fresh, and then you could buy a fish that was still completely alive. Okay, so, and look how beautiful this is over here. Just this is a typical Dutch little canal. Of course, we know the Amsterdam canals, but Amsterdam is not the only city with canals. And this, by the way, we're looking here from the bridge. The bridge that is called the Engeltjesbrug, and the Engeltjesbrug, that means in Dutch the Angels Bridge. The Angels Bridge. And just to give you a little more an idea, over here I told you already about these uh, German these Germans that were starting over here uh, with the first cafes to sell their beer. Over here we have the beer K, the beer card, the beer K. So originally over here where the beer was transported to, and I also love the street over here with these old cobblestones. Didn't change for a very long time. And then over here we have another really beautiful. Sorry for the sun again. I'm just going around it so you can see it a little better. One moment. There are several beautiful houses. One moment. So I just want to show you some. Okay. For example, the one over here. A very tiny house on the beer quay. And you can see again, this is again a warehouse that we have over here, and then on the ground level there is the place where traders were invited to think about. And this is Bierkade 9, is it? No, 10. Bierkade 9, by the way, is here at the right side. That is just over here. It's a little smaller. It's also interesting that here on the K, that the numbers are going from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, instead of only even or uneven numbers. So look how beautiful this house is over here. And I also wanted to show you over here again. Look at this this warehouse over here with a name called the Dageraad. So they have again a gable stone just above the door. It's just above the door, and of course, a house like this. Nowadays, someone is living over here, but this is a monument. So if you're living over here, it feels like living in a museum. Um, but it's of course a very beautiful museum. And then, yeah, this house from the 17th century. And then just next to it, there is a house that looks a lot newer that is from 1905, so start of the 20th century. So you can also see over here, it's still beautiful. The color is different, uh, but it's a lot newer compared to the other ones. So, and by the way, the gable stones, and I think I did this before when I was telling or doing tours in Amsterdam. Gable stones were really in use because in the 17th century, imagine 17th century, most people could not read or write. So, um, how to let someone else know where you were living? Then you were just saying, I'm living in the house with a certain picture on the side. So, by the way, over here, look at these beautiful houses over here on the corn market. Oh, be a little careful. There's a car. There are not a lot of cars, but there are sometimes cars coming. And then also look at the beautiful side streets, and that is another. And of course, I'm relating a lot to Amsterdam. That's of course because I'm an Amsterdam guide. But one of the things that I'm seeing over here when I'm looking into the side streets, the type of architecture is quite similar, but one of the things that's really different is that the houses are a lot lower. One level, two levels, sometimes three levels, but most of the houses are not higher than that. So, and that is basically, or the main reason for this is that the ground prices over here were not as high as in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, they were so high that they were making more levels, but not over here in Hoorn. So that's why they didn't need to make their houses that high. If you want your own gable stone, yeah. So if I'm telling a little more about gable stones, most of the times they were related to the profession of the person or the family living over there. So if you were, yeah, we were seeing before there was a big gable stone of a ship. So most probably that was a sailor, a trader living over there that made his money by shipping stuff. Most probably even out, if looking at the big ship, most probably even outside of the Netherlands. So the smaller ships were used for the ferries between Amsterdam and other cities, and the bigger ships were going all over the ocean, all the way to India, to Indonesia, to Southeast Asia, etc. So, and then over here we have some of these houses. You can see they are a lot bigger. We're now coming in main streets of one of the main streets of Hoorn, where a lot of the richer traders and the higher middle class used to live. It's called the Grote Oost, the Big East. And one of the interesting things is that if you are looking in the street, look at the church over there at the end, the church from the start of the 17th century, from 1600 to be precise. Um, you can see they have a beautiful clock. And it's just sticking out. So you would maybe expect the clock to be just on the side of the facade, but no, the one over here was just sticking out so people could see from the whole street the time. So it's and exactly, thank you, Erik. It's the Oosterkerk, the Eastern Church that we see over there. A little like in Amsterdam, also the people in Hoorn were very creative with their names. So the church in the east was called the Eastern Church, and the one in the west, the Western Church, and south, etc. So okay, just let's go to the other side. Sorry, there's a little uh, sun now, so I'm just trying to find the best place. And then also over here, look at this house. This is almost a house that you can find on the Herengracht in Amsterdam. But was from, they were originally, by the way, three houses from rich traders that were also connected to the Dutch East Indies Company. And because they made so much money, they could make a house in this beautiful style of Lodewijk the 14th. So the French style, a little Baroque style, and it looks like a town hall, but yeah, it is not a town hall. It was just a house from some rich traders. And just to give you an idea, the Dutch East Indies Trading Company was at that time, It was a company that was there for about 200 years in total, and in these 200 years, they made a lot of money, really a lot of money. Just to give you an idea, if you compare it to nowadays, the size of the Dutch East Indies Company was about 5 times the worth of Apple right now. So 5 times Apple, that was the word if you would compare it to what it is right now. And for 200 years, if you would have a stock of the Dutch East Indies Company, it was paying you about almost 20% each year of dividend. So 20% each year. So there was no stock in the world that was making you as much money as the ones of the Dutch East Indies Company. And talking about town halls, oh, this can also be a town hall, isn't it? So they are almost everywhere. Little palaces, little palaces. And yes, of course, you can see again over here, and I saw already several people talking about it. In streets like this, people are walking, people are walking, people are cycling. That is the Dutch tradition. And let me see, I had a nice one over here. Oh wait, you can see also different styles of houses. So different times. We're now coming to one of the main markets in the city, the old cheese market. Like, well, but I also want to show you something else. Over here, I was talking about gable stones. I have a beautiful example, I think. A very beautiful example next to this cute little side street. So that's also a typical Hoorn. All these calm side streets. Then we have this house over here. Still on the Grote Oost. There's a gable stone. There's a gable stone over here, and I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna zoom in, and what do we see over here? Yeah, I'm just gonna give you 20 seconds to think about what was the person who was living over here. So we see a tool, we see a bottle, and in this bottle, I was really trying to read it, and it's a little too small, but yeah, I can just read the second part, and exactly, this is a place of a dentist, because you can see what is under the tool and what is in the bottle. On the bottle, it is saying Jonge Jenever. And Jonge Jenever, that is the Dutch gin. Dutch gin, about 30% alcohol or even more sometimes. So if you're going to the dentist over here, you are first getting some alcohol, and then he or she was trying to remove your tooth. So it's just a beautiful example of a beautiful example of how it was working in that time. And then talking about facades, I now have to go completely to the other side. Uh, Look also at this building over here. How beautiful, white plastered. Again, another house from um, from a rich trader over here. So, and then let's go here to. Okay, I have to be a little careful because there's still people cycling. And then we're coming on the main market. I'm just gonna walk a little to the middle part. Hello. I'm gonna walk to the middle part. People over here are not used to it, or people are talking to themselves. They're like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" No, I'm walking to the middle of the market because then we have the sun from behind. And that's a little easier. So we have over here the central market. The central market, and the market over here is called the Rode Steen, the red stone, the red stone, the red stone. And why was it called the red stone? Because here, somewhere on the market, it's a little hard to see now because the terrace is literally on the red stone. So the people over there are sitting on it. To be honest, you can see in the floor there's a round big round red stone. So that was the red stone where this market was named after. Named after the red stone, and this was the main market where, for example, the cheese market was. I was with you not so long ago on the cheese market, earlier this week, on the cheese market of Alkmaar. But to be honest, in this part of the Netherlands, Alkmaar is quite nearby. The biggest cheese market for a long time, and by the way, also the oldest that we know, was over here in the city of Hoorn. So, uh, farmers from all over this area were coming over here to trace their cheeses here on the red stone, on the Rode Steen. So, and then what we also have over here, nowadays part of the West Frisian Museum, because this part of the Netherlands is called West Frisia, West Friesland. And over here we have this another beautiful 17th century house that was used by the state, so used by the important people of Hoorn deciding what I want to do with trade and everything. So it's a beautiful, really a beautiful building. And then here in the middle part, we have, and there are now a lot of people standing over here, but there's a statue. And this statue is a statue of one of the persons, one of the men, they were all men, sadly enough, who was starting the Dutch East Indies Company. And if you can see his name, Jan Pieter's zoon, Jan, the son of Peter, Koen. And he was one of the founders of the Dutch East Indies Company. And to be honest, for a very long time, the Dutch were seeing him as a big hero. And why were they seeing him as a big hero? Because, yeah, he founded the company, and the Netherlands became extremely rich because of him, mainly because of him. So what they did in the 19th century, they placed this statue here to remind him how important he also was for the city of Hoorn, because he was born and raised in the city of Hoorn. So that's why they placed it over here. But very recently, we're starting to think a little different about this, because what we now know is that this Mr. Koen, he was not so nice as, yeah, he was good for trade, but it costed a lot. He was good for trade, mainly the trade, by the way, from Indonesia. But what he did is under his while he was there, he was also in charge of the army of the Dutch East Indies Company. And just to give you an idea, the Dutch East Indies Company, it was not only trading. They had an armor of about 10,000 soldiers, and he literally killed a lot of people in Indonesia. And thousands of people are killed by him. So in the last years, the last years, people are more and more critical. Like, why have a statue of someone in the middle of the market square of someone who killed so many people in our former colony of Indonesia? So, but it's still here. It is still here, but there is a lot of debate about it. And then, of course, if you have a market square, if you are trading cheese, then you need a weighing house. So we have over here the beautiful weighing house of the city of Hoorn. And we see again the coat of arms with the unicorn, with the shield and the horn in the middle. I told you a little more about this before. So, and yes, Leslie, you are right. The Dutch Empire was for about 100 years the biggest empire in the world, and also the richest. So, compared to that, the British were nothing. They were taking it over later in the 18th century. Um, because everything that goes up goes down one day. No, but this is a beautiful beautiful weighing house where they were weighing the cheeses. It is nowadays a cafe bar, and of course, on a beautiful day like today, a lot of people are sitting outside to enjoy. But still inside, there are four places where they could weigh all the cheeses. So people are even waiting to get. Hello. People are even waiting before they are going, because they want to sit here in the sun. But let me just walk a little further, because there's a little more to see. It is a Saturday, so people are outside. It's beautiful weather. The summer is back, so that's why it is a little busier over here. But you can see how beautiful also these side streets are, and look also at how tilted the houses are. And the tilted houses over here were, by the way, not on purpose. They are not on purpose. It is because most of the houses over here are built on a swamp, so the foundation is not so good anymore. Well, we have over here another beautiful piece from 1660. So, but let me just go a little further. Okay, I'm just gonna. The whole time I have to go to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right to show every time how beautiful these city palaces are over here. So, and they also have some of these very specific places where, for example, you can still buy some of the old alcohol. I was talking before about, I was talking about Genever, made from the juniper berry. So, but over here you can also see some other traditional drinks that were mainly drinking by seamen. So they even have syrup waffle liquor. I don't know about that one, to be honest, but I would more go for the ones over here, I think. So they also have whiskey. That's more my type of drink. Okay, let's go. Because there's another beautiful building over here from the 16th century that is called the Boterhal. And Boterhal, that is the Dutch word for butterhole. The butterhole is over here. I said already before, the area, the area over here was mainly there was a lot of cattle. There were a lot of cows around, so they were trading a lot of butter, milk, and cheese. So also butter. So this used to be was used as to trade butter, but that was only later on. That was only later on because originally this place over here, and we can see that if we're looking at the gable stones over here, it is from 1563. And not only that, this was the Sint Jans Gasthuis. And Gasthuis is the Dutch word for, yeah, you can say it is guest house. And a lot of these places started as houses for people that were coming over here from other cities that needed a place to sleep. But what happened after a while? This was part of a monastery originally, and what happened is that people uh, seamen coming from other places, they were also bringing diseases. They were bringing diseases with them, and more and more these guest houses, not only by the way in the city of Hoorn, but also in other parts of the country, became our hospitals. So the monasteries, the monks, they were taking care of people. That's what they were traditionally doing already for a longer time, and they started hospitals. First very basic, and later on they were getting more and more interesting, more and more professional. And then over here we have a little newer church. A little newer church. We see again at the entrance the unicorn, the horn, and this is really this coat of arms is used still nowadays and became a very famous one. And this church is like with a lot of other churches in the Netherlands, it is not in use anymore. So um, sadly enough, I cannot go inside, but what used to be a church is now something completely different. Look at this. We have now on the ground floor the Saint, a place for food and wine, and on the top there is the Heavens Hotel. So earlier we had already a hotel that was that's partly in the prison. Over here, this hotel is built in the church that was not in use anymore. So the big church in the city of Hoorn is not in use anymore, but just as a hotel nowadays. And we can see that a little better on the side here. Look at the little windows. You can see a lot of windows on the roof. So everyone has some light in their hotel room. So it's a very unique place, of course. to have a hotel. And then around the church, and around the church, you always have the beautiful tiny houses, like the ones over here. I'm just gonna show you some. And I specifically like the pink one over here on the side. So the variation in colors is not too high, but pink is quite cute. So, but there are more beautiful ones. I'm just gonna show you some of the uh, old entrances. So here again we have number 25, another rich house, and then on the side of this rich house there is still um, there is a gate from 16010, and this gate from 16010, and you can see there is the coat of arms of Hoorn in the middle again, and then on both sides there are two women over here, and then the name is het Oude Vrouwenhuis. And that means that is the Dutch for the old lady house. So the old lady house. So imagine there were also here in the city of Hoorn, there were a lot of men going over the sea. So there were a lot of women that lost their husbands. They never came back because their ship never came back. They maybe found someone else. And that's why they had these beautiful these houses. They were placing houses just for older women. And let's go a little inside. I have to be a little calm, but it's really, really a cute little place over here. They're saying that you cannot drink, you're not allowed to drink or to make sound over here, but there's a tiny middle part over here. And Leslie, yeah, it is a little like an almshouses for sure, for sure. Now, partly is by the way the library of Hoorn. But just let's go to the other side. It's so calm and relaxed over here. So you can imagine that if you lost your husband, then this was a perfect place. And in the meantime, it is now the end of the summer, so let's do some wildlife. Let's do some wildlife. Look at this. It's the end of the summer, and it's time for spiders. This is quite a big one. If you like spiders, then this is perfect. If you don't like them, don't worry, you're at home. That's a quite big one. They're growing always in the end of the summer, and then, by the way, a holy spider, because it has a cross. We are calling it a cross spider. That's a very big spider, yeah. So, and then at the other side, just to give you an idea, I'm again on a side street with the beautiful church bells. I was just stopping to talk to you because of the beautiful church bells that were chiming. In the meantime, oh, and now you're here because this tour is already 1 hour now. I started 1 hour ago. I will do some last little parts. Well, it's also the end of the market over here. Look at this, another beautiful place over here again from the 17th century. So there's so much to see in the city of Hoorn. Keep on I can keep on going, literally everywhere. But I want to show you a last little piece. Like um, over here we have a Maria chapel. Of course, there are Maria chapels in a lot of locations. But over here they placed some interesting art on top. So look at uh, look at this man or women. What is it? Looking down at us. So it's very interesting. If you are starting to get into this chapel, think about going through this door, and then you have this person looking at us in a very interesting way. So it's a beautiful piece of art on the chapel over here. Exactly, we. So and nowadays, by the way, yeah, also this chapel is not in use as a sorry, not in use as a chapel anymore, but it's a place for art exhibitions. So there are a lot of art exhibitions over here inside. So even on the roof of the chapel, lovely one. And then the last one, uh, I was showing the place for old women, but not only that, the city of Hoorn was also taking care of orphans. So over here we have a weeshuis, and the weeshuis is the Dutch word for orphanage. So the orphanage was over here, and that's why we have again the unicorn in the middle with two kids on the side. So um, and yeah, this is 1620, 17th century again. It's so beautiful that there's still so much what you can see over here from the 17th century. So I'm just gonna go to the little square over here, and then gonna there's a little square and another little canal also on the side. While we have another place with where they have the market during these days. I'm just gonna find a location where there's a little less sun on the other side. That's better. Ooh. Okay, just gonna change the screen. So, okay, this was the end of the tour for right now. I showed you at least part of Hoorn. Thank you for joining. And I'm also showing this because a lot of people are coming to the Netherlands, and they're saying like, okay, we want to come to Amsterdam, but there's so much more beauty around Amsterdam. So there's so much more than only our capital. So, and of course, I'm living in Amsterdam, but I also want to show you things on 1, sometimes 2 hours away. This is even only 30 minutes by train away. So, perfectly for a day trip if you're coming to the Netherlands, a day trip to the city of Hoorn. If you have some more time, maybe even still a little over the IJsselmeer. So it's wonderful to be here. Plus, it is also not extremely busy. So compared to Amsterdam, it's a lot calmer and relaxer. So I hope you I hope you all enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. So I'm gonna prepare for my next tour because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk back to the station and maybe have a drink first. Walk back to the station, and from there, in about I think 2 hours from now, yeah, 2 hours from now, I will do another tour, and that tour will be in an old steam train. We are gonna do an old steam train from Hoorn to Enkhuizen and back. Enkhuizen is one of the other six towns of the Dutch East Indies Company. Um, Doing that in an old steam train from about 150 years old. And not only that, we also have a sunset. And you've seen how beautiful the weather is. So I'm expecting a beautiful sunset that we will see while in the train. So I'm really looking forward to showing you that. So this was just an extra tour. I thought, okay, I'm already in the city of Hoorn, so why not show that also? And then later on in the train. So I'm gonna prepare myself for the train, and when I'm people walking, I see so many beautiful things. Yeah, city of Hoorn is also the city of the gates, of the old gates. I'm just gonna show you a last gate. I want to thank you already for all the tips and support and all the nice words. And then we have over here this last beautiful city gate of the city of Hoorn, part of um, it was het Doelengebouw, and you can see the men over here. They have arrows in their hands. They have bows and arrows in their hands, and that is because this building was from the Schutters, and the Schutters were the police of the 17th century. So mainly just people that were saying like, I will take care to make sure that it is safe on the streets. So they were walking around originally with bows and arrows and later on also with guns. And that was called the Scutters. So thank you again for joining, and I hope to see you again, maybe on the tour later today. And guys, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to come because there's so much more beautiful Dutch cities like the city of Hoorn. Thank you. Bye bye, and hope to see you again.